we are completely ignoring this segment of women who are in perimenopausal age, and they're going to start working longer as well, right? Beyond postmenopausal years. Because over 50, there are 33% of women who are working, still working. They're not retiring. But all this tension, all this stress, it actually, if you look at the data, they think about quitting. Can you imagine being at the top of the game in your 40s and now you're thinking, oh my God, I can't handle?
It's something that all women go through, but yet we don't talk about it. And that is perimenopause. And that's why I'm so honored to have Amita Sharma on the podcast today. She is the co-founder of NourishDoc, a global holistic wellness platform for middle-aged women. NourishDoc has designed evidence-based and cultural-sensitive holistic wellness programs for women wellness, self-care, and prevention. With menopause as taboo globally and over 1 billion women reaching menopause, wellness for women at this stage should be in the forefront. And you are going to learn so much about this, how it impacts your health, how you can be proactive and just get ahead of the game and understand yourself a little bit better. This was such a great conversation. I'm so honored to share it with you now. Welcome, Amita Sharma. I am so happy you're here because we're going to talk about something today that impacts all women, but yet isn't really discussed, and that's perimenopause. So thank you so much for being here today.
I'm really thankful to you for bringing this topic out in the open. So yes, the feeling is mutual, I should say that.
Yes, and I can't wait to hear what we dive into because there's so many aspects around it that aren't widely discussed or maybe known. And I really think we're going to open some eyes here about so many different topics. So one thing I want to dive into first is, why is menopause, perimenopause kind of taboo? Like, why isn't it talked about? It impacts all women, but yet we don't really get a lot of education or know much about what to expect.
So I think, yeah, you're absolutely right. I think the focus is on the feminist quality of a woman, and more on reproduction and giving birth, and then we just completely forget, including us. We are also guilty, women ourselves. We never speak up, right? It's
Yeah.
not just we can't blame other people. We also never speak up, and we feel that it's not okay for us to talk about our problems, post reproductive years and we keep it to ourselves. So it's just, and then we feel, I think most of the women feel that reproductive years are sort of like fertile and a loss of fertility that's going on. I mean, that's like, I think you can do it going years back, like not in this kind of society, but if you go 200 years back, most of the women giving birth, and then it's like, okay, now you're not needed anymore. I mean, it's not now like that today, day and age, but I think it's the, subconsciously, that's my personal feedback. I don't know how you feel about it.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense because it's, highlighted when, you have a baby in the lead up, and then it's like, it's kind of, you're left off, like you're almost forgotten after that. Like, I know we were talking about, like, even around the pregnancy, women are just kind of forgotten because it's all about the baby. And
Yes,
there's so many things that you don't even know what to expect until you're literally in the thick of it.
yes, yes. And that's a problem. And I think we women also don't like to talk about that we are going, sort of like losing our fertility. So it has just become a taboo now. And it is so bad because the years of the perimenopause are so important for
Mhm.
women to take care of ourselves.
Yeah. Can we talk about that a little bit more? Because it is one of those things, if we don't know how important that is and it's not
Yeah.
talked about, those
Yeah.
years could quickly slip by. And then what are we missing as far as our health that could impact us very significantly down the road?
Yeah, so we all understand menopause and puberty, switch on, switch off, right? But then in between, there's a reproductive, we know that. Now, between reproductive and menopause, there is a phase called perimenopause, which we are completely clueless. Now, what is happening is it can happen 7 to 14 years before the switch off happens, right? Now, the problem is the hormones start going down right here. It's not like suddenly one day the hormones are out, the gas is out and the switch is off, and women are in menopause. It doesn't happen like that. And I'm not a medical doctor. I'm just sharing the research, what I've read, and by interviewing 3,000 plus holistic experts. It happens over a span of years, and that span of years could happen 10 or 14 years prior to when you're hitting menopause. Now, when your hormones, your female sex hormones are going down, sure enough, you're going to have, due to the hormone fluctuations, you start getting all these symptoms. Now, the reason this is important is if you don't take care of yourself, balancing your hormones, making your lifestyle, there is a direct correlation of data that points to rise of chronic condition in postmenopausal women. Almost 80% of postmenopausal women have one chronic condition. And that's a lot of it is attribution to lack of care during this hormonal fluctuation that start happening when women are in perimenopause. So that's why you can't wait until menopause and say, okay, now I take care of it myself. You have to start doing it in perimenopause.
Yeah, I love it. And it's just that proactive approach versus reactive, which we know being proactive is 100% better. We can anticipate things and really get ahead of it rather than trying to get things better from when it's already existing. When we are experiencing perimenopause, for someone who's listening to this and they're like, am I not? What are some of those signs that women can start to notice, like that they may not even realize is because of perimenopause, or maybe they've been attributing it to other things? What are some of those signs and symptoms that they can really start to touch into and recognize that this is what's going on? Are you the person who says yes, even though you want to say no? Are you the person who puts your own needs and wants last behind the demands of your work and everyone else in your life? If you answered yes to any of these, you may be self-abandoning, and it does not come without a cost. If you want to know if you're self-abandoning for achievement, take my free quiz in the show notes.
Yeah, so perimenopause can happen as early as mid-30s or late 30s, actually. A lot of women are getting into perimenopause earlier than later because of all the stress that we carry. So typically the first sign is irregular periods. That is because the sleep and the stress, I think all of us have that, irrespective of our age. That also is symptom. But typically your irregular periods and the symptoms that are more common to being perimenopausal is hot flashes, the vasomotor symptoms that we call those. So hot flashes or night sweats, and that's what started happening to me. I started sweating, when I started my perimenopause, and the same thing, my flow, the periods start becoming strange. They could be very heavy flow, they could be further apart, or they could be shorter. All that fluctuations in the menstrual flow of a woman, that is an indication of your health, perimenopause, or whatever is happening. So that is very important for us to monitor our flow during that time.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And just, going around that too is we know, when girls are starting their periods, we expect these emotional, dysregulation sometimes, and like emotional parts and maybe some mental, changes. But can you talk about that too around perimenopause? Because I imagine if we're having all these changes in hormones, we're going to experience things emotionally and mentally. What are some of those signs and symptoms that women might experience and, again, not realize it's perimenopause?
Yeah, so there are over 35 plus symptoms recorded during the perimenopause phase. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So the, as I said, the progesterone starts going down, the estrogen could be a little bit dominant, and that's directly related to our mood, our cognition, our gut health, right? Sleep, stress, all these things, low libido, pelvic health. So it's like everything suddenly around you, the orbit around you. Weight gain is so common with mid-aged women. I know my friends would say, "Oh, I just smell food and I put on weight," right? Most of the women say that, and even around the belly, that never goes down. Hair thinning, skin going a bit, like acne. You start getting sometimes acne. I used to get rashes. I would, even a couple of years back, I was like, "Oh my God, I couldn't do anything. My skin would just bubble up and rash." So there's so much that starts happening, so many symptoms. It's unreal, actually, to be honest. Why
Yeah.
we have to go through so much more after giving birth.
Honestly, it seems very unfair. I know for all the changes you literally have to go through that impact you in so many ways. And I would imagine too, it's like you're talking about all the changes. It's like that's probably why women don't want to talk about it too, because like you don't want to
Yeah,
see that your skin is, you know, not what it
yeah,
was, or your hair, or like, you know, especially if you attach some worth to how your outward appearance is or whatever that is, like that can
yes.
really be impactful when you're going through that. So I imagine that would be really perpetuate the kind of the taboo of like, let's not talk about it and almost ignore that it's actually happening, you know? And
Yeah, yeah, that is one of the reasons. And the other thing is the data says 50% of the women are in depression during this phase because I think we don't talk about it. We feel like, oh my God, the beauty, the feminine beauty is going down, right? That's what we were talking a little bit earlier. And that is, but you just don't know what's happening. Suddenly all these things start happening.
yeah.
So yeah.
Oh, and say that's why it's so important to have conversations like this, because if you are around this stage and you're experiencing this, it can take off that like what's wrong with me and recognize, oh, my body's going through changes. Okay, like there's nothing wrong with me. This is just the natural process of it. And now what can I do about it? You know, so which we'll get into here and talk about. But you had mentioned stress, and this is such a big thing, especially
Yeah.
for women, especially, you know, women in their late 30s, 40s, 50s. I mean, that's kind of the prime of your career, so you're trying to work, but now you're going through these bodily changes, but then you have this uh, pressure to be functional and productive and be
Mhm.
on your A game. Can you
Mhm.
talk about how do women navigate all this where you have the pressures, but you're going through these changes, and what does that look like?
It's actually the data is quite bad. The reason I'll tell you why, because now in the workforce, most of us are working. So if you look at the data in the United States, for instance, approximately 50% of the workforce is women over 45 years. So they're perimenopausal. We know that because of the age. And are they talking to, do they feel comfortable talking to their HR or, boss? Or no, the data says they don't talk about it again. And,
Yeah.
and, and, and so many of them, 85% of the women have some kind of symptoms. We talked about the symptoms or so many strange symptoms, but out of that, only 40% of them are seeking any advice. So still there is so much of a gap. Women are not coming and saying, hey, I mean, it's not cool to say, hey, I'm perimenopausal at work, right? I mean, me including, I felt very embarrassed.
Yeah.
But the thing is that I think somewhere it has to start because the health equity part comes in now, is that, we are completely ignoring this segment of women who are in perimenopausal age, and they're going to start working longer as well, right? Beyond postmenopausal years. Because over 50, there are 33% of women who are working, still working. They're not retiring. But all this tension, all this stress, it actually, if you look at the data, they think about quitting. Can you imagine being at the top of the game in your 40s and now you're thinking, oh my God, I can't handle, I feel embarrassed. So they think of quitting, they think of, going down, like down the ladder, corporate ladder. So there is a lot of productivity and absenteeism happening, loss of productivity and absenteeism happening in the corporate world, but the corporate world is losing a lot of money because of that. And it's still beginning in this country. UK has been further along, but in this country, it's beginning to happen. Like some big companies like Microsoft, I read, and Nvidia, they are starting to talk about offering this kind of a program. I don't know the details if they have already, but it has to happen from big corporations to talking about this and giving some kind of a support, whichever at work, because it can be very embarrassing moments, and not only embarrassing moments, but you could suddenly lose your train of thought because of the cognition. We talked about brain fog, mood disorders, right? Suddenly you start crying. I mean, this is not that it just happens because of the hormone fluctuations.
Yeah, I completely agree. It definitely needs to be broadly talked about, and especially in a corporate level, because I think we all need to be reminded that we are humans working, not just workers, we're not machines. We are going to show up differently each day depending on these things. And we need to acknowledge that and embrace that and give ourselves some grace in the process. And I think that's something that as a society often lacks, especially in this country, because it's like, do more, do more. I don't care what it takes. You need to hit the numbers. I don't care if you're going through perimenopause, this needs to happen. And that mentality, you could imagine when we have this mentality of scarcity that I'm never enough, I'm not doing enough, I need to make more money. It just perpetuates that self-betrayal of not looking at our health and ignoring it and just doing what we're told to do. And so I completely agree. It needs to come from top down where there is this recognition and prioritization of looking at health. So I absolutely love that. And I love that you're on this mission to expand this. And I would love for you to talk about that. Well, first of all, let's dive in. If someone is listening to this and they're like, okay, yeah, that sounds like me. I'm about that age. I'm stressed at work. I notice the health changes, mental, cognition, emotional. What can someone start to do so they can take that proactive approach?
So, I think I'm not against taking pills or anything. That's not the point. In Super Bowl, there was an ad yesterday, by the way, for hot flashes, take a pill. Women can, I'm not saying don't start taking pills, but on the other hand, irrespective of whether you take a pill, whether you don't take a pill, you take HRT, you have to change your lifestyle. No matter what you do, you have to embrace a holistic lifestyle, so that you can be in harmony with your physical, mental, and psychological, social, or whatever you want to call it, spiritual side of it. So if you don't do that, and the data we know in America, trillions of dollars are being spent on chronic conditions, and women are the ones who have more chronic conditions than men. There's not enough research right now that correlates exactly that why women have more chronic conditions because of maybe lack of perimenopausal care, hormonal balance, or menopause. So that is happening now at the national level. Jill Biden has created a special task force, a research into looking into the menopause research or the women research, so to speak. So what I'm trying to say is that there's so much work that needs to happen during, this phase of this underserved years of women's health, that we don't understand each and everything as well.
Yeah.
We're learning as we speak.
Yeah. And it's when there's a lack of awareness just in general,
Yes.
we know that, there's going to be probably less resources, less funding that's been there. And I'm glad that there are some changes that are happening, but research often takes many years to even get to the point where it can be applied. So I mean, it's good that we're moving in that direction, but there are women right now that need this. So I love how you talk about the holistic approach. Like there are things we can do right now and recognize that we have the power within ourselves to take care of ourselves. And can you dive into that holistic approach a little bit more? What does that kind of look like for somebody who is literally starting out? What are some things they could start to integrate into their life to help themselves?
Absolutely. So holistic mean what we are talking about, the holistic therapy. So what we have done is we've gone all over the world, interviewed over 3,000 plus holistic experts. So starting with nutrition, you need to change your nutrition game completely. I don't know what kind of nutrition everyone is on, the diet and nutrition. Then exercise has to change. Incorporating some breathing exercise, like pranayama, learning how to do that properly. That is what I'm talking about. Then yoga, some of the yoga asanas, there's a lot of research how yoga can help with your mind body. We know that. Mindfulness, simple mindfulness, being present, that you can embrace that. Now, the other thing that's specifically focused on menopausal, perimenopausal years is also naturopathic herbs and supplements, but that you should only do after consultation. There are a lot of herbs and supplements that can help with your anxiety level, with your libido, with a lot of things that we are talking about. Hypnotherapy is another one that has evidence and research that helps with hot flashes, believe it or not, and also with calming your mind. So that's there. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, what we call it, that also has evidence. Talk therapy, basically, having a good support of if you don't have a health coach or an expert but also your friends. That is important. Aromatherapy, essential oils can help you. Massage therapy is another one that can help you, has a lot of research. Acupressure, acupuncture. So many things I'm listing here. And physical therapy, like you are a physical therapist for pelvic health, right? Ayurveda has an amazing daily routine system. It is a system that has existed for 5,000 years back. So has traditional Chinese medicine. So what I'm saying is there is so many elements, so many tools that we have. Now they have research as well. It's not that they don't have any clinical trials or research is lacking. So we can take some of the good things and start taking our lifestyle and embracing a holistic lifestyle using all these things that we've talked about.
Yeah, I love that. And just so many options for that. And it just embracing the ability that you can do all these you're with the support and guidance of others and really make a whole change in your life. And that there are so many aspects of it. And I think that really needs to be expressed because sometimes we think about perimenopause, we get pinholed into like it's physical, but it is so much more. The nervous system is integrated in all aspects of that. So I love how you talk about the mental, the emotional, the spiritual side of it, and of course the physical, but those all need to be on in and moving in a direction that can serve us. So I love how you incorporate all those aspects to really help people through this process. So I think that's absolutely amazing. For someone who wanted to get into that, how would they get started in that? What does that look like, the process of figuring out kind of where they are, what would best fit them, and how to help someone guide through the process?
Yeah, so the first step is depending on who you are, whether you are perimenopausal or you're menopausal or postmenopausal, that is the first determination of which stage or three stages of this whole journey, which stage you are, right? Because depending on the stage, the symptoms could be different. The symptoms for perimenopause could be different. The postmenopausal typically have more chronic conditions because we shared the data. So the first step is to understanding your stage. The second step is to understanding what your symptoms are. Based on the symptoms, then you can say, okay, let's say we take an example of stress. I think all of us are stressed out. We have sleep issues or, I don't know, hair. So depending on the symptoms, then you can start with the self-care journey, which I just talked about. Now, the self-care journey, I mean, that's what I did. I'm just sharing with you what I have done, and I'm not a doctor or anything like that. It was all incorporating all the holistic lifestyle. But the first step is starting with a daily routine, right? You can't do everything all at once, all the laundry list that I just said. It's very difficult. It takes time. But maybe you start with the simple habits of, okay, in the morning, like I'll tell you, I drink every single day herbal tea as an example. I put ginger and turmeric and some of the herbs like triphala, and then some other herbs like, cumin and ajwain seeds. So that's my way of cleansing my system in the morning and getting up, right? Let go of coffee, let go of alcohol, let go of processed foods, let go of all the white stuff. So, and maybe the red meat also, you'll have to limit it, bring in the plant-based diet. So these kind of changes, if you start doing it slowly, you will start noticing the difference in your energy and fatigue and even your tummy and the weight. But this has to happen irrespective of if someone is on a pill or someone is taking hormone replacement therapy, right?
Yeah, I think that's such a great point to make too, is that it's in conjunction. It could be in conjunction with that or it can be on its own, but it still needs to happen. It's not because you take a medication that now you're off the hook for making some lifestyle changes. Absolutely, I'm completely in agreement with that. It's like it needs to happen as far as doing that. And I also love how you showcase that it is those small changes. It's not like you have to overhaul your whole life. It's like, what's something you can add today? And then when that gets integrated, okay, now what's something else you can add into it? And it really becomes, like you said, a journey. It's not like an instant thing, but as you start to make those changes and you notice the changes in your lessened symptoms and you're feeling better and you're more energized, like that becomes your momentum to keep it going because you recognize, oh my gosh, it's working. So I love that. And just, taking people where they don't feel like it has to be so overwhelming. and that you can do that and get into a better place. So thank you for sharing all that. One thing I want to talk about too is because high achievement and stress, many women who listen to this are those like high achievers. They're stressed out and they are trying to navigate all the things, and the stress is often like can exacerbate a lot of those symptoms. For women who feel like I can't quit my job, I don't have a choice to do that, what would be a recommendation as far as like navigating that for those women that feel like stress is contributing to these symptoms, but they can't really change things external to themselves?
Yeah, and quite honestly, same situation was with me. I had to work. I needed the money. I mean, we all need money, but those years are so critical. Sometimes, you have teenage kids at home. You have to send them to college, or you are at a position that you don't want to quit because you've worked so hard to be there, right? Again, the same thing is these are little habits that they have to change. They are always in the go, go, go. So sometimes you need to find some time for yourself to really take care of yourself. If they don't find any time for themselves, nobody else can help, right? So they have to change their nutrition to what we talked about. That's important. Take some time to breathing. Just learn to have some simple breathing techniques. That's free. It doesn't take much time, barely 2 minutes in the morning, yeah, right? 2 minutes in the afternoon or something. Learn to do some 5 minutes of yoga on a daily basis, some simple postures that will help you. So, yoga, breathing, mindfulness would be at the top of my list, and along with that, nutrition. The other thing, what I personally do is massaging, self massage. That helps you so much. You just kind of taking the oil, like it doesn't have to be oil that has some kind of a smell, or use a nice aroma oil so that it calms you down. So you have to do some practices to calming practices. What is very important for us to calm down the stress, what we're talking about, the mind, is our gut health. If our gut health is not good, we know gut health and mental health is connected with the nerve. Now, if you are not having a good gut health, you are always going to be stressed out and always have some issues. So having prebiotics, probiotic, fermented foods that help with the gut microbiome, making sure bowel movements are regular on every single day basis. That is very important as well. So most of these women, when they're in go, 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 the gut health can also take a back seat, and not eating. What we normally do is we are eating while we are lunchtime is always meeting and eating. At least I remember everybody was okay, let's meet over lunch, and then we were doing. And so you have to take a moment to at least eat and appreciate. 5 minutes or 10, it's not that much. And so these are the things that women who are so busy, they need to start taking care a little bit time for themselves, and making conscious effort to take these changes on a daily basis to help themselves.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, because again, it may just be as someone listens to this and like, okay, yeah, I need to give myself permission to do this.
Yes.
Because sometimes we can get stuck in this rut where we can like stop ourselves from doing anything different because we think we can't. But
Yeah.
when you hear this and you're like, oh, I can do 5 minutes today. And
Yes.
so it is sometimes just giving ourselves permission that like it's okay to take care of yourself, and you should be taking care of yourself, because it's that investment, the consistent investment in yourself every day, that is going to hopefully prevent some of those diseases you were talking about later on. So this is really about investing in yourself and giving yourself permission to do it, and knowing you're worthy of it. You're worthy of investing in yourself. So I love that. And I hope that someone who hears this recognizes that like it is those little things that make all the difference. So I absolutely love that. Do you mind sharing whether it was yours or someone else's transformation of someone who was really struggling with some of these symptoms and then applied a lot of these holistic techniques, and then what was the experience afterwards?
Yeah, like I said, I've interviewed over 3,000 plus holistic experts, and majority of them, a lot of them were women who themselves had problems in their mid years, and then they became a health coach, or they learned how nutrition and dietitian. So there are millions of stories like that, and all of them will say exactly the same thing. They had to change their entire diet and nutrition, entire lifestyle. And now, that easier, the journey is much easier for them to navigate. In fact, quite a few stories that I know who have been able to reverse some of the chronic conditions. Now, cancer is, of course, an exception. I'm talking about diabetes, heart disease. Heart disease is all lifestyle. These never even existed, actually, if you go into the history, right? Um, uh, and even dementia can be, you can prevent dementia. Onset of dementia can be prevented. Osteoporosis, right? Osteoporosis is bone loss that starts happening to all of us when beyond age 30. And if you don't do weight-bearing exercises and don't have the diet and nutrition to take care of yourself, osteoporosis can happen. So yes, absolutely. I have so many stories that women have been able to reverse diabetes, for sure, heart disease. Now, osteoporosis, if you've already had it, then you can't reverse it because it's too late. But some of these lifestyle chronic conditions can be reversed.
Yeah, thank you again for sharing, because it's so important to give women some hope, because sometimes you hear like, oh, well, you're going to hit this age, all these things are going to happen. But when you hear these stories, it's like, it's not inevitable. Like, you have the power within yourself, regardless of where you are in your journey or what age you're at. And so thank you for sharing that, because it is about inspiring women to take charge of their health and be proactive and take responsibility for the things that they can do. And that's why I'm so grateful to have this conversation with you and get it out to more people, because I think it really needs to be shared much, much more often. So I appreciate it. For someone who wanted to work with you, and where can they find you and where can they find your resources?
Yeah, so go to our website, www.nourishdoc.com. The app comes out in literally in few weeks. We had to check so many things because we're bringing a lot of data, a lot of actionable things that I talked about. So for now, go to our website. You can get in touch with us or wait for our app by the end of February and March. The app can be there. And if you need to get hold of us, hello@nourishdoc.com. You can send us, yes.
Oh, thank you so much. And I'll put everything in the show notes, so that way, when you're listening to this, you can definitely get in contact and definitely look at all the resources, check out the app. That sounds absolutely amazing, especially for women on the go. What an amazing thing to have on your phone and know exactly what you need to do to take care of yourself. So thank you so much for being here today and sharing such valuable information and just empowering women to really harness their ability to change their lives. So thank you.
Thank you. Yes, that's really our mission, is to empower each and every woman who's going through in the world. And that's why the app is super affordable. It's going to be priced less than $10 a month.
It's amazing.
Because it's a self-care app. And then if someone wants one-on-one, we have a network of naturopathic doctors and other experts who can guide you through the one-on-one journey as well. So thank you.
Oh my gosh. And again, thank you for doing what you're doing, because you are spearheading a movement that needs to happen. And so many women are going to be so grateful that you have done this. So thank you.
Thanks a lot for talking about this. Yes.
Hey there. Thanks for listening to this episode. I hope it serves you well to start rewiring your brain to create the life you desire. If you found value in this, please share it with a friend and tag me on Facebook or Instagram at Dr. Kelly Kessler.